Bula, Fiji. This is Weather Woman, meteorologist Amy Metz. I have been updating product here on my page. You're able to find information here from me if you would like. I am going to deep dive into the forecast for Fiji, this close-up video that I just shared. You can see here. This week, this is your Weather Woman meteorologist Amy Metz. I am about to deep dive into the close-up forecast for Fiji as a tropical cyclone. That's a lot of rain. And if you'd like more updates, you can find me there on Facebook or other social media platforms. Today we are looking at Invest 99. This is right next to Fiji, and it's the only possible tropical cyclone on the board right now for the next 24 hours. Space weather has been pretty slow. Some more flares, but not much. When they're dramatic, they can cause extra lightning, and there was some extra lightning with the last batches that came through last week. Today we're going to focus on Fiji, and I'm really going to zone in very close on Fiji, but this is what has been going on with Invest 99. 25 knots is not a lot right now, but things are going to ramp up pretty soon, and I'm going to dive into the hows and whys. And if you noticed my cover thumbnail, it shows up to 85 mile per hour winds, up to 140 knots, kilometers per hour, 140 in my forecast, but that's mostly in the funneling regions or right along the upslopes of these northern portions. So I'll be talking a lot about local effects, and what I mean by those are these small regions where we have strong ridges, very high altitude very quickly, and then these low-lying valleys where water can build up both from the sea and also from downpours that are funneling toward here. So that can be a good idea of where I'm going with this with certain words. And these things can be pretty confusing here. We're looking at the Met Office and its outlook. I agree with a lot of this. Very warm water, low wind shear. A lot of things line up that this could be a significant tropical cyclone within the next 24 hours. And then there's also another area we've been watching on my channel and other products in Australia that's forming. So I'm going to just get right into the forecast with the questions that have been coming into me from people out of Fiji specifically and get a close-up view. So these are some of the wind speeds. Right now it's kilometers per hour is how I've set everything, and in Celsius. The only thing I couldn't figure out how to update is the times. So it is actually 5 p.m. on Saturday in Fiji. So this is actually on the time for the East Coast United States where I am. And I'm going to set this onto wind gusts because they are more representative of actual wind speeds with the tropical cyclones. That's in this region. And as we get farther out, they will really end up lying somewhere between the wind gust and sustained wind speed. So it's going to be in the next 24 hours that things get really ramped up. And by Sunday night, it will go from feeling like a tropical storm across the island to more stronger gusts and what can be those local effects along the mountain slopes where we have air converging together and driving up a mountainside. That's going to every now and then possibly knock down a tree or some power lines and provide extra issues there on the north portion of Fiji, the main island. That's Viti Levu. I am hoping I say the second word properly there. So as we continue into what is Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening, we'll notice that there is a different situation with the wind. It's starting to finally let up. It almost looks, I wanted to zoom out to be very clear that this is not the eye wall. The reason for this, that there is a gap here, is then just that the storm is letting off and it will be pulling out southward. So I'll get more into the forecast and showing what I believe will happen and how long these might track past, but it will linger on for some time. That storm could end up circling around a little bit out at sea, but overall the strongest winds will come on Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. into Monday. And those will be ranging anywhere from 55 knots up to, I would say, more like 90 on the knots at the max for some of those local into this up the slopes or down slope winds. So another thing to watch out for then is that there is warmer water coming in toward this area. So we're looking at the swell forecast right now, and everything is moving downward from the northwest. And that is going to continue through the point of Sunday and Monday when the storm is stronger. So while we have a lot of rain now, it's going to continue. There's warm water out there that is, this is a different map that shows us really close what the water temperatures are. And it's extremely warm where we have these light pinks. So everything that is coming down from the northwest at the surface, the sea surface temperatures, they're extremely warm. And so that means this cyclone does have a good chance of getting quite a bit stronger. And then the good news will be when I show you the steering winds, why it won't make a direct landfall, but you also can see all this moisture. Where there's the reds and the darker colors inside the red, it's very, very strong rainfall. And the moisture here shows that there's going to be a lot more incoming. So there's also surface convergence and other meteorological situations going on that will cause a lot more rainfall. Here's some of those surface winds with showing us that when they're coming together down below, it's going to cause more and more storms. So while it's raining now, it's going to continue raining more and more for the next week. So that's one of the bigger problems here, aside from wind speeds, is that there's going to be possible roads getting washed over with debris as massive amounts of rainfall, especially on slopes. Things are going to funnel and debris can wash into that and end up covering roads or causing little landslides. So that, again, also is going to be focused mostly on the northern portions of these islands. Also the western facing with some of that, and then the low-lying areas where water can stand and where it pools and drains to. So we have what is happening now with the winds, and then in the days to come, it's going to be ramping up to 100 kilometers per hour on average for the northern and the western portions. And things are also going to be stronger as they funnel in between. So we're going to have also strong winds lingering on longer into Monday and Tuesday, more so on the portion of Fiji right here that I'm circling on that northeastern coastline. So I'm getting a lot of questions about the western side of Fiji. And with that, that's the lightning mapper. I had here a product that shows the infrared. So this is an infrared satellite, and it can also give us an idea of how much rain is there. So the reason that there's going to be a lot of extra rain on the western side is because as this moisture starts moving in, it will first hit these mountainsides, and that causes extra lift, and it rises the water up to a condensation point. It ends up creating more and more clouds. So there will be a lot of drainage down onto the western sides. And then with that swell also incoming, it's going to cause some more additional flooding in low-lying areas right along these coastlines and where the water is funneling. So any waterways, any low-lying areas, these have the higher chance for pooling water up a little bit. And on their way down is where there could be some debris and also the stronger wind gusts that can knock things down. Another question that I got from a couple people is where do these storms come from? And that's pretty much what I went over at the beginning and what was focused on in this discussion by the this one here by the Fiji Meteorological Department. So it gets kind of wordy, but all these things, all of the warm water, all of the swells and a tropical wave is where this stuff comes from. Another thing is all the winds at different levels in the atmosphere. So here we are at the surface, and you can see that there's already that cyclonic motion, but the winds are not strong enough yet to call it a tropical storm or a tropical cyclone. But once those wind speeds increase at the surface level, that will change. And so going up to what we call the steering winds is one level where a lot of this stuff can form, where we can get tropical waves. Another one is up a little bit higher near the jet stream, like where the polar jet is and where tropical jets are. So if we go up to that level, then we'll see here that this jet max, where it's stronger, where most of the strong weather usually is leaving now. And that can help spin up extra spins into the atmosphere in its wake. As you know, a wave goes away in the ocean, sometimes behind it you'll get another spin up. So this is an example of that, where the atmosphere is a fluid, and so it ends up forming when it's ideal and there's nothing to disorganize it. So there's no wind shear there. If we go up and down at all levels, you'll notice that there's still a spinning here. And that is an indication that there isn't any wind shear. So if we're looking at the same speeds, same colors is another idea for that here, and the same direction, then that's no wind shear. So right around that storm, it's ideal, it's prime for it to grow. The only thing that's really cutting off the growth then is the islands of Fiji. When this air is pushing into here, it's not able to continue a tight circle. It gets a little bit thrown off there. So that is actually inhibiting it from getting stronger. But once the storm starts moving a little more south, so right now it has not formed, it's not as strong as a tropical cyclone, but it will be. So once that thing starts moving a little more south, it will start to gain that organized circulation, that nice closed circle, because there won't be any more wind shear. And luckily, by the time it's able to move away to get stronger, it's not going to be by a bunch of islands anymore. It will be drifting down to the south. And one reason that I believe that is because of the 500 millibar level. Somewhere right around in the middle of the atmosphere is where I'm going to show you next. This is the surface level, once again, showing us that by Wednesday evening, by Thursday, the effects on Fiji are going to be much less. It will still be raining there into the weekend, on and off then by Friday, but pretty heavily all the way through Thursday. And it will still be gusty all the way through Thursday, but really, really letting up by Saturday. So Fiji can know that it's going to totally steer clear by the time we hit Saturday. Things will be getting back to normal, and then Sunday, a chance to finally dry out. And winds way back down to even 0 in some places. So that's what we have to look forward to in the days to come. And so back to now, what I was talking about, the steering winds, about halfway up through the sky, 500 millibars. This has a lot to do with where hurricanes move. And I'm going to give a big wide view so that we can get a longer idea of what's to come, a longer range, because weather systems, for the most part, move this direction around the Earth as it's spinning. And these storms will sometimes indicate that it's moving in a certain direction out ahead. So instead of continuing in a circle completely, these winds that I said, are having interaction with Fiji itself, they're getting diverted and pushed around. It cannot organize very strong and very wide because these are going all over the place when they're getting pushed around the mountains. So that is an indicator that part of this energy, if I go back to now again and I'll stop it, part of that energy is still being pushed away instead of joining into this storm. And in this part of the world, the stronger winds usually are, because of the curvature of the Earth, going to be on the southwest portion. And that's all along going to mostly be over the ocean. Some of those gusts will get into Vanuatu, but not many. So that's also good news for Fiji, that while there are these winds here that are matching down here around 50 kilometers per hour, it's actually going to be quite a bit stronger on Sunday evening and into Monday on the southwestern portion, not bothering anybody. That's closer to 100 kilometers per hour, and it will gust up much higher. So this is, again, higher up in the sky, so it's not going to be as it's not going to be what people are feeling down at sea level, but that's another reason, I guess, to show higher on the altitude what's actually hitting some of those mountain tops, and one of the reasons why some of those downslope winds and upslope winds can be stronger, because at the surface it might not be as strong, but then you move up a little bit, and then those mountains and that terrain is affected by it, so it's more easy to knock over some of those things. But as a whole, most of Fiji will be protected by those mountains and not be feeling such strong effects on the other portions. So then back to where this thing will end up going after its peak, after Sunday and Monday. With steering winds, again, I'm looking for the area of least resistance. At that point, this jet that the storm was lending some of its energy to is going to be pretty far away, that polar jet. And so it no longer is going to be affected by that as much. Instead, there's going to be a system that starts pushing downward on it, downward as in poleward. And at that point, it will be able to ride off some of this energy and that force to start moving south. Again, if there's no other big forces, we have an area of high pressure that ends up wanting to spin winds in this way, which also starts, adding to the propulsion for the storm to continue going southeast, not making a direct landfall on Fiji. So that, again, I'm going to stop it because it is at a different level. And by this point, the storm will probably still be together, but we'll see how close it is. Yeah, now it's at the surface. Those winds were much higher than at this point. So it's still going to be a cyclone, and this is where it will start getting stronger, is when it actually leaves Fiji, and this land is no longer disorganizing those winds. Now it's able to flow over open water and make it, really make a big, powerful circle. And the good news there then is that it will be drifting toward the southeast because of that other interaction in the upper levels that we showed, at which point it's going to become a very impressive storm. Again, there will probably be marine warnings, gale warnings out for just the coastal areas and marine areas of New Zealand into the weekend. But the good news is there's no direct landfall. There are going to be very, very local effects where those strong winds are, where power outages occur, where flooding is. It's going to be few and far between with this one because it's not a direct landfall. Now we also have, another island part of Fiji. I'm going to play out the winds again. I do agree a lot with this model, but I want to reiterate that the timing is off, that it's really going to be about 16 hours later than this. So you can add about half a day for it to understand what's Fiji local time. And also, there's going to be hyper-local gusts up the terrain that are much stronger than what we're seeing. I'll explain the colors real quick and pause here and there. There is anything that's in the purple, it's going to be about 90 kilometers per hour there. And then once they turn blue within here, that's more than 100 kilometers per hour. And there will be heavier, stronger gusts up these slopes. And then here will be the second hit when the storm starts getting a little stronger, but not as severe as the first one, most likely. There will just still be that chance for those really strong local gusts in the same areas, mostly just the northern coast and northern slopes of main Fiji Island. And then by Friday, really starting to calm down. Very nice on Saturday, but still on and off rains. And then by Sunday, I think you'll have some nice sunny skies popping in there, mostly sunny. So I'll just replay those winds again, zoomed in even more on each island. And so this is where it will be stronger. And you can notice the huge difference from one side to the other. At this point, it gets a little stronger on this side. So now by Friday, much calmer. And then I'll zoom out here and replay this for the area here. And I'll replay this then, and I'm just going to go back and check to see if there's any questions in the comments. I don't normally put any forecast at irregular times. I don't normally have many people watching in the lives at one time, so they usually get shared later. For that reason, I don't normally have any comments in here during my lives. It doesn't look like it to me on this end. So here it's 40, as low as 30 kilometers per hour on the south shores. But then at the same time, the north shores will be looking to get, 80 kilometer per hour winds with gusts in up to 120 when we get into these slopes. So not as severe as the main Fiji island where Suva is, but still some damage can be done, especially more so in these northwestern coastlines and slopes. Again, still a ton of rain though. So we have an area here that with low-lying area that could definitely see some excess water there up until this point where Saturday, Sunday, it starts to clear up. So you'll end up with some breaks, but overall, there really is a lot of moisture out there. It's going to continue to rain after another little break. Once this moves out of the way, you can get some high pressure in the wake, or high pressure for you spins this way, of course. And that will give you some sunshine for a little bit, but there will be more rain again after that. So go ahead and hit subscribe if you would like to continue to get forecast updates. I do look at storms around the world and space weather as well. That would be coronal mass ejection, solar storms, solar flares, aurora forecasting. So there's a lot of uses for that, whether it's space related, health related, or weather with lightning or intensifying cyclones and adding more cloud condensation and nuclei into the atmosphere. That leads to increasing the clouds. So there's a lot that I look at and I shared here, but when there's major severe weather around the world, I do focus on that and I'll share updates here. So I will be looking at a lot of things. I'm going to be forecasting in person here in Sioux City, Iowa coming up. I took a temp job, so I'll be leaving Georgia, where I am near Atlanta, and staying there in February and March. I'll still be forecasting global weather. We can see, wow, a big thing going to the UK right now and even Europe. So just so you know, if you end up subscribing, there is more on there. So you can turn the notifications on and off if there happens to be severe weather in your area coming up. You can ask me about it on different sites, like my different social media outlets. We have Weather Woman on Facebook, and go ahead if you do that. I will make updates specifically for those areas. And then you can turn the notifications off again if, let's say, it's not cyclone season for you anymore, or you don't, necessarily want to get the space weather updates. So I'm looking at lightning right now because of those solar storms. It looks like it is decreasing a little bit from a couple weeks ago when we had M-class flares. So I do have more videos on space weather specifically if you want to look those up on my channel, and a group on Facebook called Space and Earth Weather. So I do talk about the connections there that are being figured out. And I hope everybody is enjoying their day, enjoying the weather, and just preparing properly if you're in Fiji and going to be part of this storm, understanding that the higher risks are going to be these shores and these slopes right here on the northern coast, and here, especially later in the week. Any low-lying areas will be very floody, so you might want to just stay somewhere else if you have a house on one of these slopes that has, trees that could fall, or that if you're near a valley, especially close to where the water drains down. Those are some of the more dangerous places to be during really strong winds. And then the cyclone in that will be forming anyway and will be in Australia. That's another thing that will be popping up a lot right now on my streams here on YouTube. So taking a look at that, this is where that will develop from. And this, here we go. Let's see, yeah. It says that right now, still not a cyclone. I figured in the next probably day and a half, this one would turn into a cyclone and then end up crossing over this tip here in Australia, the northeastern portion of Australia. So yeah, that's all still on track to happen. And then with the steering winds on that one, I'll get into a local forecast for that at another time. But they're a little bit different, and there's a couple different options right now. I'd have to look at a few more products to get a good idea of it, where I think it will make its second landfall. The first one is pretty clear that it doesn't have many other places to go yet. But right here, the second landfall could really be taking place anywhere between this, where the cursor is here, and I think here right now, just based on what I've seen so far. So that'll be the next step coming up on the feed, and I'll definitely be tracking what's going on near Fiji too. Just be aware that there should be no direct landfall associated with this cyclone, although it will grow very large, and there will be more than one landfall with the cyclone forming near Australia. This is your Weather Woman meteorologist, Amy Metz. I hope you enjoyed the forecast. Go ahead and hit subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Is there a possibility the cyclone will loop back to Fiji mainland? Oh, that's a great one. And then is this path set in stone? Now, with the windy forecasts, these really are not set in stone. I do prefer this European model. It does show better forecasting, I think. And I do notice, though, if you're using windy, the winds are not really what happens. That, when it comes to cyclones, I've never found to be accurate. What I do find to be accurate is if I select wind gusts, then I end up getting speeds that actually match data points that I can find. For instance, I can touch this here and see what the winds are now. And now if I can find that that actually matches what this is saying, then I know that we're doing good. So going back to now, this is something that was already taken 28 minutes ago. And so I'd actually have to go back in time a little bit for that one to be at the now point. Here is 32. So it's nice to be able to verify these things. And I would say no, it's not set in stone with windy, but it is set in stone for the most part when I'm putting up text products on my Facebook. So I should probably start doing that as my thumbnail too, like that image that you see when you click on this video, I could put my own track on there. I'm going to show you my Facebook page. It's just facebook.com/theworldofweather. And so I put these up here, but I'll also add text products with like just photos with arrows. So when I do that, I would have more of a definitive answer and saying that yes, that's what I think will happen. But when it comes to the windy model, within 12 hours, it's very accurate. Within 24 hours, it's pretty good. But when you get to 3 days out, it's a little confusing. So that's why I did that. I looked at the steering wind so far out. And I'm digging back from my last round of Fiji weather, because I did put some things in there, but I've been tornado chasing so much and sharing on there that I can't find the example with the arrows that I create. And so I would definitely say that wind-wise, because of these steering winds, the forecast that it's not going to make a direct landfall is set in stone. More of the energy that's coming down here is going to continue to push this way. Hurricanes do like to follow warm water, so I'm using a lot of different key elements here. The warm water is going to be coming down this way along with the surface winds, and it's also matching at this level. So that means there's no wind shear here. That means things are going to stay the same, but until more of this wave starts interacting. That will add energy into the system. And so that's my personal forecast. And what I do is I watch this model to see if that's what it says. So I'm seeing more energy as a brighter color, meaning a stronger wind. And so yes, these stronger winds do end up funneling into here. That will help propel and push this storm south while it wants to take the path of least resistance. Where we see the blues, it's really light wind or maybe no wind, and it's easy for a hurricane to slide into that. It's almost like it opens up its arms. So when we see ridges, we don't have a strong polar jet here peeking through to the 500 millibar level. These are kind of advanced terms, but it's what I look at to know that yes, this is going to want to keep going toward these blues. Also, it will keep getting propelled by this tropical jet. So those are indications that there's no way it's going to make a direct landfall, and this is going far out. Now, with this model, I would say this is where I would stop believing the model completely, but I would almost want to say it's going to hang a little bit more to the east. But really, honestly, at this point, it's almost irrelevant, at least for the way I forecast, only because I'm doing this where land is. Of course, there could be maritime people who are out at sea that need to know exactly where this is going, but it's not going to be far from this. It will continue going south, and then it will move a little bit east, but first it will go more southward than east, and the stronger winds will be on the southwestern portion at first, and then down at the surface they should stay that way. So that's really why it's staying that way. I'm going to see what the other question was again. Yeah, that's again why maybe it could loop back. See, these are not coming up on the other source where I'm watching the stream, so it was hard for me to see them, but I wanted to make sure I answered all the questions. I got a lot of them on Facebook and in Messenger, so those ones were answered during the stream. And if you have more that come up, go ahead and find me on Facebook. I do think it's the easiest way to reach me. It's easy to message on there anyway. Otherwise, you can find me on other platforms as well. So enjoy the weather. I hope everybody stays safe, and just know that, this island's going to be pretty safe. These south portions anyway, extremely, almost like there's, going to be some flooding in low-lying areas, but other than that, like almost like nothing's going on for these southern shores. So if you are somewhere that could be potentially dangerous, you might want to just have a day or two where you're hanging out on the south shores for safety. So enjoy the weather. This is your weather woman, meteorologist Amy Metz, signing off for the evening.